You know, a poorly or a properly negotiated lease can affect your practice by tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've had many scenarios where we help a client and the initial proposal we get from a landlord ends up being $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 more than what we end up negotiating at the end and what the client signs for. Well, a $400,000 mistake of not having the right posture and the right strategy, a $400,000 mistake on their real estate actually means you have to produce $800,000, maybe $1 million, maybe $1.2 million of production to cover that mistake. That's why it is so dramatic and real estate is so important to your practice's profitability. It's also important to understand, just like this table, there's two sides to the negotiation table. On one side, you have the tenant. That's going to be you. You are going to be the tenant or maybe a buyer if you're buying a building. But on the tenant side, you're looking at signing a lease. On the other side of the table, and you're negotiating against, on the other side of the table, a landlord. Now, the landlord is in the real estate business. They're called lords of land for a reason, right? They understand real estate. They understand how to make profit from real estate. They feed their families based on the profits that they make from real estate. So they're not looking to give any concessions that they are not required to give. They're not going to just reduce the lease rate because they're a nice guy or a nice gal, or the listing agent was a nice person, or I go golfing with them once or twice a year. They're not going to reduce the concessions that they give and affect their bottom line by $50,000 or $100,000 or $200,000 just because of that. So having the right strategy and the right posture and understanding that there are two sides to this negotiation table, that there are two parties that have opposing views but want the same end result, which is you being in the right space for a long term. If you understand that and you understand whose name is on the door of that building, then you're going to have the right mindset. And sometimes it helps to put the thinking cap of a landlord on. Another big mistake that we see a lot of practices make is just calling the sign on the side of the door. You see maybe a for lease sign and you call that listing broker. A lot of times you don't realize that that listing broker has a fiduciary responsibility, a legal responsibility to represent the landlord in that transaction. And their job is to get the highest lease rate possible, to provide the fewest amount of concessions possible because they're trying to make profit through real estate. They represent the landlord. And so a lot of times doctors, a lot of times dentists will call that number thinking, hey, this person seems like a really nice person, nice guy, nice gal on the other side of the phone. They want me to be in their space. They're excited about me. They're maybe giving me $10 a square foot in tenant improvement allowance or something like that. Not realizing that most deals, if they're properly negotiated, could get 3 or 4 or 5 times that amount of money. Everything that you say on that first phone call to the listing agent can and will be used against you during that negotiation. And that's why with so much at stake, hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's important that you have the right strategy, the right mindset, and you have the right posture for this process. So to recap, real estate is typically the second highest fixed expense for a practice. But it represents great opportunity for savings. A small mistake can cost tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars, but having the right approach can honestly benefit you tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Negotiations with a landlord are extremely important, and dramatic savings can be achieved with the right approach.